The Iowa High School Rugby Association introduces T3Rugby, non-contact, two-tag touch rugby for PE and recreational sport.
So it's a big day for the referee, Chris Draper of USA, 29-year-old engineer from Des Moines, Iowa, USA.
Hello, I'm former international referee Chris Draper, here to speak with you about a non-contact variant of the world's fastest-growing contact sport, rugby. This brief video is intended to offer an introduction to the rules, some general rugbyisms, and a few general coaching points that will allow PE teachers and recreational sports instructors to introduce this simple, safe, high-paced sport to players of all ages. Rugby often evokes images of a muddy, uncontrolled mess. But the modern game is one of skillful evasion, possibly the fastest, most demanding sport, both physically and mentally, on the planet, requiring the vision, balance, and control to put your teammate in scoring position. Much like rugby's American descendant, basketball. But as demanding as the sport may be, it's really a very simple game of getting the ball from one end to the other without passing forward, without blocking your opposition. In this section, we'll discuss the basics of the game, the field, and how to get started. In rugby, any player may run with the ball for as far as the defense allows. Because players can't pass forward, offensive teammates must continually circulate to find opportunities to attack. In two-tag touch rugby, the defense gets the ball back when two separate defensive players tag the same offensive ball carrier. Here we see an offensive player with the ball getting tagged by an opponent. With only one tag, a player may continue playing, but he or she cannot score. If this player passes to a teammate, his number of tags will reset to 0 and play will continue. Instead of passing the ball to a teammate, the player continues and is tagged again by second defender. Because the same ball carrier has been tagged twice, the defense is forced to turn over. Because the turnover occurs where the second tag happened, even if the player does not immediately put the ball down as they should, the ball is brought back to the point of the turnover and tapped on the ground to start play. Rugby may be played on any flat surface. However, it's recommended that the number of players be restricted based on the width of the field to ensure open play. Generally, it's best to keep one player for every 3 yards of width. So for a basketball court, the recommended number of players per team is 6. For a football field, the recommended limit is 15 per team. The first rugbyism of note is grounding. In non-contact rugby, this is when a player who is holding a ball taps it on the ground. In order to score, you must ground the ball in the goal. For a basketball court, the goal is anywhere on or beyond the baseline. For a football field, the goal is the same as the end zone. Similarly, play is started or restarted after a score by grounding the ball. When using a basketball court, as soon as all offensive players are in their own goal, they may tap the ball and play. At the same time, no defensive player may interfere with the offensive players until he or she has retreated past halfway, which is the offside line for the defense. When using a football field, the offense may start at the halfway line, with the defensive offside line at least 10 yards away. The offside line is the same as the line of scrimmage in football. You may not cross your offside line until the ball is played. While the offensive and defensive offside lines are in set locations when starting or restarting after a score, this is not the case when the ball is turned over in open play. When the ball is turned over in open play, like when the defense gets 2 tags to get the ball back, the offensive offside line is where the ball is tapped on the ground. When playing on a basketball court, the defensive offside line is 3 feet away from the offensive line. No defensive player may cross the defensive line until the offensive player has tapped the ball on the ground to restart play. Another notable rugbyism is in touch. In rugby, this just means that a player is out of bounds. If a player runs out of bounds, or in this case, knocks the ball out of bounds, The other team restarts play by tapping the ball on the ground near where it went out. In non-contact rugby, any intentional physical contact is grounds for removal of a player. Any other infraction results in a turnover. As previously noted, a player may not pass the ball forward. A forward pass occurs when a player passes the ball towards his own goal line. Given the offensive offside line seen here, the red line indicates that the ball was passed forward. The result is a turnover at the place where the player passed the ball from. A knock-on is a rugbyism for either dropping or knocking a ball forward. Because the ball bounces forward off of pink as he attempts to catch the ball, a knock-on has occurred and the other team restarts play at the location where he knocked the ball. If an offensive player is in front of the offensive offside line and prevents a defensive player from making a clean tag on the ball carrier, that player is causing an obstruction. Obstruction is a rugbyism for blocking. For example, after the player in red passes, he continues to remain in front of his teammate who now has the ball. This is very common with beginning players. Because he's in front of the offensive offside line, he is now offside. Even though the player is not attempting to block anyone, the ball carrier uses him as a blocker. Because he has prevented access to the ball carrier, obstruction has occurred, and the other team gets to restart play at the point of the obstruction. Due to its simplicity, most players pick up on the game of rugby quite quickly. However, as a facilitator, there are a few common points of opportunity to provide effective coaching. For example, when restarting play, some players tend to be overly concerned with avoiding a tag. Consequently, such a player may tap and stand, resulting in a very slow, ineffectual period of play. As a coach, it may be helpful to remind these players that they do have a tag to give without turning the ball over, and a running start is often a better platform to attack. In this case, such advice is quite effective. It is also quite common for beginning players to tend to clump together and follow the ball. As a facilitator or coach, it can be helpful to remind players the opportunities associated with keeping wide on the field. In this case, a wide support player leads to an easy score. If you are assisting the game by calling tags or penalties, it is important to keep in mind one of the primary objectives of rugby, to ensure continuity. Looking back on this forward pass we examined earlier, we see that the ball went directly forward to the opposing player. While this is an infraction for which we can stop play and award a turnover, it's important to note that the player who has the ball is in a pretty good situation. One of the key tenets in the game of rugby is the law of advantage. Simply put, if the player is in a better position now than they would be if you awarded the penalty, then just play on. By not stopping to award a penalty, we allow play to continue, and in this case, see another great positive coaching opportunity. Here we see a player with a single tag who recognizes that he can still continue playing. He just cannot score. Instead of stopping his run, the player continues to proceed in goal and looks for support there, who follows up to ground the ball for a score. It's important to remember that the goal of non-contact rugby is to provide a fun way to complete a demanding workout. Due to its unique combination of no forward pass and offsides rules, rugby is unique in the fact that the average participant is in the target heart rate zone over 90% of the activity time, making it the perfect fit for your fitness goals. And remember, if there's any way we can help you pick up the ball and run, please feel free to contact any board member of our coaching association, or operational support staff through our website. Have fun and play on. The IHSRA offers special thanks to Coach Bart Jones of Van Meer Community High School. The Iowa High School Rugby Association, taking Iowans from state champions to Olympic medalists. For more information on how to give your student athletes access to the world, please join us online.